Hey guys, I am back with another whiteboard explainer video, and today I would like to talk about decentralized trading, decentralized exchanges, and atomic swaps. I think it is very important to understand what happens when you exchange one asset to another. What are the risks? How to mitigate them? And I'm going to cover 4 different ways to exchange assets: trading on a centralized exchange, trading on a smart contract based decentralized exchange, trading on a smart contract based instant swap service, and trading using atomic swaps. And don't worry if you don't quite understand what is the difference between these 4. This is exactly what this video is about. So let me introduce you to our 2 heroes in this video. She's Alice and he's Bob, and they want to trade with each other. So let's take a look at centralized exchanges first. I assume most of you used them before, something like Binance or Bittrex. These are very convenient places to trade. But this convenience actually comes with big trade-offs. Let's say Alice wants to sell KMD, which is sitting in her wallet, and Bob wants to sell BTC sitting in his wallet. He wants to buy KMD. Now, both Alice and Bob have to send their assets from their own wallets to the exchange first. And this takes quite a bit of time, actually. And now these funds are sitting in the exchange wallets. The problem is you don't control your keys there. You control your keys here, but not there. And things can go wrong. And sometimes they do. And exchanges get hacked all the time. And for sure, some exchanges are better than the others, like Binance and Bittrex, for example, are pretty reputable, but it's still far from secure. And of course, when you already have your funds on an exchange, it's very easy to trade them. It's one click. But again, you need to withdraw your assets to your own wallet, and it takes time and it takes money because there is a fee. We all know how centralized exchanges work. They are convenient, but they are not great. So let's take a look at the alternatives. Let's talk about smart contract decentralized exchanges next. Most of them are built on Ethereum, and some good examples are DYDX, DDEX.io, or actually the oldest one standing, IDEX. There are others built on Tron or Waves and a few others, but they are, well, largely irrelevant. And I'm not going to erase everything here. I'm going to erase a few things, but not everything we have on the screen, because believe it or not, these exchanges are not that different from centralized ones, not as different as you might think. But let's say Alice has ETH and Bob has USDC. So these are 2 Ethereum-based assets. It's ETH and an ERC20. And this is immediately a limitation because all these smart contract exchanges can only work on one single chain, typically Ethereum. So you cannot trade KMD, Tezos, Atom, or most importantly, Bitcoin on these venues. And how they work is actually kind of similar to centralized exchanges, but wait just a second, just let me get rid of these. They will be back soon anyway. So Alice sends her ETH to the exchange wallet and Bob sends his USDC to the exchange wallet, and then they do the trade. Wait a second, are there exchange wallets here? Yes, there are exchange wallets. The difference is that these exchange wallets are not controlled by the owners of the exchange. They are controlled by a smart contract. And it is safer because you can take a look at these smart contracts. It's all open source, and you can check that no one will steal these assets, at least in theory, because, Ethereum smart contracts are not always 100% secure. And you give up ownership over your assets. It's not controlled by you anymore. Some people say it's not controlled by anyone, which I guess it's kind of true, but it is controlled by a smart contract. So once the funds are in these exchange wallets, trading them should be easy. So this order matching is often done off-chain by nodes running the DEX. And I would actually be kind of comfortable using these exchanges if the UX were better. but it's so painful. Seriously. Why? Because every action you take, deposit, placing an order, canceling an order, etc., all these actions require a signature. So every time you place an order, you have to sign. And these signatures happen on chain. So canceling an order, that can take 15 seconds, which is one block on Ethereum. And that's really, really, really problematic. But all in all, with these decentralized exchanges, you get rid of some of the risks associated with centralized exchanges, but they are not pleasant to use. And, you still give up control over your funds. Now, let's talk about smart contract swaps. And I'm going to delete almost everything here, except for Alice and Bob. As you will see, Bob is not really one person here. I also keep the Ethereum logo. Maybe you heard about Uniswap or KyberSwap. And yeah, these only work with Ethereum assets again. So we're going to stick with ETH and USDC. So Alice wants to cash out her ETH. So she starts a swap on Uniswap. And here's what happens. She sends her ETH to the Uniswap smart contract, where it gets matched with maker orders for USDC. It gets swapped, and the smart contract sends her back this USDC. There is no exchange wallet. So Alice is in control of her funds, except for that less than a minute her swap executes. And that is about as good as it can get, at least on Ethereum. So this part is really nice. The question is where that USDC comes from and who is Bob, like who's the counterparty. And on Uniswap, there's actually no single Bob. There are many, many, many Bobs. And they are depositing assets into something called a liquidity pool. So when Alice asks for the price of one ETH, she actually asks this liquidity pool. Now, this liquidity pool is in practice a smart contract. And you see the problem here, right? So if you decide to provide liquidity on Uniswap, you give up control over your assets to a smart contract again. And some people might be fine with this. And to be fair, these contracts are battle tested. And if you contribute to the liquidity pool, you actually make money, a few percent APR, but it's still not perfect. And logically, as Alice, you can trade your asset at the price the liquidity pool offers you. You cannot, for example, limit sell ETH. You cannot say, if ETH goes to 180, sell them all, because your funds are in your wallet and not in a smart contract. And some of these services, like KyberSwap, now offer limit orders, but then it works exactly the same way as a smart contract exchange that we discussed earlier. So all in all, though, smart contract swaps are actually pretty good, especially for Alice, for the taker. You only give up control for a very short time, and the UX is super easy to use. It's very similar to Changelly or Shapeshift. Now, of course, I would not make this video if I didn't think we at Komodo have something even better, and that is atomic swaps. So let's take a look at what they are, and let's take a look at why I think they are superior. I'm going to use a KMD to DGB example here, Digibyte. And you see, there's a difference immediately, because our atomic swaps work with many, many assets. All the UTXO-based assets like Komodo, Bitcoin, all the Bitcoin forks, Zcash, Qtum, DGB, and so on. And also with ETH and ERC20. So all Ethereum-based assets. Our atomic swaps are cross-protocol. You can directly swap real Bitcoin to real DAI, for instance, or KMD to USDC. And we are adding a new protocol very soon. And that will be a word first, and something we are very excited about. But back to the atomic swap. So I will not walk you through the whole process, but I try not to oversimplify it either. because it is important to understand what is happening. If you need more info, komodoplatform.com, we have a ton of technical material there. So first, Alice and Bob, they agree that they will exchange KMD for DGB at a certain rate. They also agree on a secret hash that will be used to unlock the funds and a time frame for the swap. The next step is Bob sends this DGB to the wallet of Alice, but these funds are locked. Alice cannot access them, but she can verify they're there. So she announces to Bob that, hey Bob, I got the DGB. And if she doesn't do this in like the time frame agreed, then these funds are automatically returned to Bob. Now, it is important to understand that this is not some sort of smart contract logic here. Atomic swaps are actually using the hash time lock method or property of the protocol layer itself, which is great because it cannot be attacked. This is part of the consensus mechanism itself. This is part of the Bitcoin consensus mechanism, part of the Komodo consensus mechanism, and so on. This is not some sort of third-party code running on top of the chain. So Alice announced that, hey, I got the DGB, and here's the KMD. She sends it to Bob. Bob actually needs to claim these funds actively, and if he doesn't claim, then these funds are returned to Bob. So again, because of the hash time lock. Now, of course, in a normal situation, Bob claims the KMD, and at this point, Alice can unlock the DGB using the secret hash that they negotiated. And it is called atomic, not because, some nuclear technology is involved, but because the swap either happens or not. It is either fully executed, like Alice gets her DGB, Bob gets her KMD, or if something goes wrong, or one of them tries to cheat, it just rolls back to where it was before. Now, I know this looks complicated, but ideally, this is hidden behind the user interface. So you actually don't see these announcements and claiming the funds. It should all happen automatically. Now, there is one caveat. So if one of these assets are ETH or ERC20, then on that side, there will be a smart contract involved because that's just the limitation of Ethereum. But that's still okay. As we discussed, that's actually pretty similar than to how a smart contract swap platform works, which is as good as it can get on Ethereum. So let's take a look at the pros and the cons. The most important pro is that you never ever give back control over your assets. You always retain control. And it's impossible to hack. It's extremely secure because it is using the protocol layer and not some software built on top of the protocol. So atomic swaps have been around for a few years now, at least as a research project. So why they are not the default way of trading? And that's a good question. And I believe there are three main reasons for that. The first is speed. Atomic swaps are not suitable for high-frequency trading because the trades are settled on chain. So, for example, if you want to swap Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash, you need to wait quite a bit of time for the trade to execute because it involves multiple transactions and the block time is 10 minutes on average. And that's a long process. We can actually mitigate this by wrapping Bitcoin into KMD or tricks like that. But yeah, atomic swaps are typically quite slow. This is not a problem though if you are, not day trading, but swing trading, or if you use OTC. Atomic swaps are actually amazing for OTC trades because there's no need for escrow. Second, atomic swaps, that's traditionally a Bitcoin protocol technology. And this is a limitation because some assets, like most of the stable coins, are on Ethereum. Now, the good news is we at Komodo, we managed to break this barrier. We provide cross-protocol swaps. So I would say that's actually a pro because now atomic swaps are multi-protocol, Bitcoin, all UTXO chains, and ETH, all Ethereum-based assets, and some new protocols are coming very, very soon, and that's quite a breakthrough. The third one is atomic swaps are fairly complicated. You need a good and friendly UX to hide the machinery, frankly. And no one was really doing this until Atomic DEX, which is our multi-currency wallet and Atomic Swap DEX. It's a two-in-one. So with Atomic DEX, you can do these swaps like you swap two assets on Shapeshift. It is super straightforward. It's very user-friendly. And I really encourage you to give it a try. So I think now that's a pro. We have a friendly UX. And you can check it for yourself. It's on atomicdex.io. Now, it's in public beta. It works. It works beautifully. Liquidity can be an issue, but that's something we are working on. We specifically don't want to have a lot of liquidity on Atomic DEX on a beta stage because we're testing and it's a beta. But if you check our roadmap, komodoplatform.com, you can see that we are on time and a 1.0 is coming later this year. So thank you for listening. I hope this was interesting and see you next time.